In this series, I'm looking at incorporating image sequences into our motion graphics projects. Now, there's a bunch of different ways that you could do that, and in this video, I'm looking at importing images as an image sequence. Let me go ahead and do that. You can see here my kind of design that I'm going to be working up over the series of videos. And with the image, importing of an image sequence, I'm going to be creating this background element, so this kind of fairly abstract, static piece of motion. Just out in my Finder here, and what I've done is I've taken a series of photographs just with my iPhone. You can see here I've got this whole kind of folder of images, and I was taking photographs, being looked at pretty weirdly, taking photographs just of a blank concrete wall in various different positions and taking different frames of that texture. And my idea was that I could use that texture as a kind of a static or a background static for my graphic. You can see here that my iPhone names the files that I take sequentially. So I'm up to kind of 6,077 here, but it's they're named sequentially and in alphabetical order. So I've got a series of about 20 odd photos here that I'm going to use in my sequence. To bring those into, and maybe I'll just show you one of them. Here's a picture of the concrete on the RMIT Brunswick campus. Let's go over to After Effects, and I'm going to start, well, I won't start a composition just yet. I'm going to import, close that down. We'll import our assets to start with. So we're going to import a file, and I'm going to navigate to the desktop where I have my iPhone images, and I'm going to select the first image in that folder, first image in the sequence. When I've done that, you can see that After Effects looks inside the folder and sees that there are a bunch of sequential images in there, and gives me the option to import Jpeg sequence. So usually it's create composition, but in this instance I'm going to import Jpeg sequence, and I can force alphabetical order. These are definitely in alphabetical order there. And when I open, that image, you can see that it has a particular type of icon in the Assets panel here, and that is an image sequence. And if I make a new composition, make a HDTV 1080p at 25 frames per second, a bit shorter than that. Click OK. You can see that once, I might give that a name. And I'll pop that image sequence in there, my iPhone photos, and you can see that if I run that through, the whole image sequence is brought in as kind of one chunk of images, as if it's a video, and we can use that whole sequence as one kind of layer, which is really effective. So that's playing through really quickly. I don't want, although that might be good in some circumstances, to have a really rapid sequence. I actually want to slow that down a little bit, and we can do that in a couple of different ways. I'm just going to check my composition. 25 frames per second is good. I'm going to go to the image sequence in the asset bin there, and I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to go down to interpret footage, and main, and this is where we can access the frame rate of that sequence. I'm going to slow that right down from 30 frames per second right down to 12 and go OK. And you can see that now that I've got quite a bit more on my timeline, and if I just preview that, it's going to be going a little bit slower. Alright, and I'm going to just change my composition settings just to trim this down a bit. Trim it down to 4, I reckon. Whoops, 2 is what I meant to do. Just to trim off the end of that space there. Awesome, and that is importing an image sequence. So if you've got a collection of sequentially named files, you can import them into After Effects as an image sequence, and you can use that image sequence as if it was a video asset, which is very, very useful. Now, of course, the subject matter for your image sequence could be absolutely anything. It could be something abstract, as in this case here, or it could be a sequence of drawings that you've photographed that are a little bit more representational.